Brahmanath. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Swastha. Hello students, in the previous class we discussed about the amoebiasis and the ringworms. Amoebiasis, it is a disease caused by the protozoan called the Entamoeba histolytica, and the ringworms, it is a microscopic fungi called the dermatophyte. In both the cases we discussed the mode of infection, the symptoms, the diagnosis and the treatment, and lastly we discussed the prevention and the control. In the ringworm, we discussed the various types of the ringworm and their related symptoms. By this, we came to an end to the whole disease portion. Today, we will discuss our new topic, that is your immunity. So simply, what is immunity? You all are familiar with this word because it is a very common word and you are all familiar with this. Immunity means we can say it is a simply self-defense mechanism which is present inside our body to protect against various pathogens or foreign particles. Okay, means in our body an immune system is present who continuously work to always protect us from various pathogens or foreign particles that is present outside the body. When it enter into our body, it always fight with that pathogens and protect us from that pathogens or that foreign particles. A common example, suppose I am having this marker, means some microorganisms such as bacteria, virus could be also on this marker, and unknowingly it could also enter into my body. Okay, as it is, it cannot be seen by our naked eyes, and these are the microorganisms, but it can enter into my body. If it is suppose it is contaminated by any other infected person, so in that way also it can enter into my body. But in a repeated way, as it enters into our body, it fights, means the antibody that are present inside our body or the immunity system which is present inside our body continuously fight with that pathogens. So simply, what is immunity system? Means the immune system means it is a, we can say it is a self-defense mechanism which protects from the various pathogen or the foreign particles that enter inside into our body. So first point, what is immunity? We can write first point. Immunity, it is the resistance of the organism's body against the disease causing pathogen. It is the resistance of the organism's body against the disease causing pathogen. Disease causing pathogen. Okay, means what is immunity? It is the, we can say, resistance of an organism's body to protect against the various, we can say, pathogens or we can say foreign particles which enter into our body. Okay, next, another we can write also, the immunity, it is the ability to distinguish between our own cells and the foreign particles. Means he can detect which is harmful for our body, which is our own cell or which is the foreign particle. If it can detect that this particular cell or this pathogen is harmful for our body, so it will kill it or destroy it, or even if it will help in declining the growth of that microorganism. So we can also write, it is, means immunity, it is the ability to distinguish between between our own cells, and the foreign particles, okay. Means immunity has the ability to distinguish between our own cell and the foreign particles that enter into our body from the outer environment. Second, what is immune system? As I said earlier, we can simply say it is a self-defense mechanism which protects our body from the various pathogens or the foreign particles. We can simply write it is a self-defense mechanism it is self-defense mechanism which protects our body from various pathogens or foreign particles. Okay, means we can say, as there are so many systems present such as circulatory system, it performs the circulation portion or circulation function. Excretory system, it performs the excretion function. Okay, so like that only, means the immunity system or immune system, it is a self defense mechanism, okay, which helps in giving protection or immunity against the pathogens or the foreign particles that enter into our body. Then what is immunology? What is immunology? Immunology simply, it is a branch of science that deals with the immune system. It is the branch of science that deals with the immune system. Okay. So these are some introduction portions. So first point, what is immunity? It is simply the resistance of the organism's body against the pathogen, or we can say disease causing pathogen. Second point, immunity has the ability to distinguish between our own cell and the foreign particles which are harmful for our body. Next, simply what is immune system? Such as I said earlier, then as we have the circulatory system, the excretory system, the respiratory system. Similarly, immune system means it is a self-defense mechanism which protects our body from various pathogens or foreign particles. Lastly, what is the immunology? It is the branch of science that deals with the immune system. Okay, please note down. Now come to your the division of the host defense mechanism, or we can also say the immunity. So your host defense mechanism or the immunity is broadly divided into two types. Okay, first one is your non-specific defense mechanism, other one is your specific defense mechanism. Non-specific defense mechanism can also be said as innate immunity, whereas the specific defense mechanism can also be said as the acquired immunity. What is innate immunity? What is acquired immunity? We will read in detail, but innate immunity means the immunity which is present since birth, or it is inherited from the parents. Whereas the acquired immunity means what? Acquiring means it is present after the birth. Simply, innate immunity is present since birth. Okay, but whereas this acquired immunity is present after the birth. In this case, it is present after the birth. Okay. Further, the innate immunity is divided into two types. One is your external one, other one is your internal innate immunity. Okay. the external is known as your first line of defense. The internal one is your second line of defense, whereas the acquired immunity or the specific defense mechanism is your third line of defense. Means what? The first line of defense, second line of defense, or the third line of defense? We can say it is a stage of defense mechanism. Means if a pathogen enter into our body, obviously our immunity system will fight with it. So the first person or the mechanism or the first factor which will act or fight with the pathogen is your external innate immunity. So that is why it is the first line of defense. If the external is unable to fight with the pathogen, then the pathogen will fight with the internal innate immunity. If that is unable to fight, then the acquired immunity will fight with that pathogen. So these are your stages, means first line of defense. If it fails, then it will go to the second line of defense. If it will fail, then it will go to the third line of defense. Means these are the stages by which it fights with the various pathogen. Okay, so external is divided into two types. One is a physical barrier, other one is a chemical barrier. Physical barrier is further divided into two types. Okay, one is your intact skin, further one is your mucous membrane. Whereas the chemical barrier is divided into 8 divisions. Okay, first one is your skin secretion, then saliva, then tears, then the gut secretion, then the bile, then the nasal secretion, cerumen means the earwax, and last one is your vaginal secretion. Whereas the internal innate immunity is broadly divided into 3 types. One is your biochemical factor, the cellular factor, and last one is your other factors. Biochemical factor is divided into 2 types. One is your interferon and second one is your complement system. Whereas cellular factor is divided into 3 types: macrophages, microphages, and the natural killer cell, or we can also say the NK cells. Whereas the other factor is divided into 2 types. One is your inflammation, second one is your fever. Okay. Further, if we will go to the acquired immunity is divided into broadly 2 types. One is your antibody mediated immunity, other one is your cell mediated immunity. Okay, so this is your about your division. So firstly, the whole immunity or the host defense mechanism is broadly divided into non-specific defense mechanism and the specific defense mechanism. Whether the non-specific or the innate immunity is broadly divided into 2 types. One is your external, other one is your internal. Whereas the acquired immunity is divided into 2 types: antibody mediated immunity and the cell mediated immunity. Whereas the external is divided into 2 types: physical and the chemical, and the internal is divided into 3 types: biochemical, cellular factor, and the other factors. Okay, please note down. Now come to your innate immunity. Okay, so what is innate immunity? It is the immunity which is we can say inherited by the organism from the parents, and also we can say it is the immunity which is present since birth. So we can write first point, it is the immunity which is inherited by the organism from the parents. Okay, means it is the immunity which is we can say inherited from the parents, and also we can say it is the immunity which is present since birth. So we can also write it is present since birth. Okay, next point, why it is called non-specific immunity? As we discussed in the divisions, that the innate immunity is also known as a non-specific immunity. It is known as your non-specific immunity because it is not specific to a particular pathogen. Okay, it can kill, or we can say it can act upon, or it can fight to all the pathogens. So your point is, it is called as non-specific immunity because it is not specific to a particular pathogen. Okay, means it can fight with all type of the pathogens. It can fight with all types of the pathogens. Okay, it can fight with all type of the pathogens. Okay, and why it is called the innate immunity? Okay, means innate means since birth. It is called, or we can say it is called the innate immunity, or it is so named because it is present since birth. It is called innate immunity because it is present since birth. Okay, so your general point is innate immunity means the immunity which is present since birth. Second point, it is called the non-specific immunity because it is not specific to a particular type of pathogen or particular type of foreign particle. Okay, it can fight against all the type of the pathogen. Okay. Next, to come to your principal component of the immunity. What are the various principal components of the innate immunity? First one is your mechanical or the physical barrier. For as of now, you just only remember the names because we will read in detail about all the topics. Okay. So what are the principal component? First is your mechanical or physical barrier. Second is your chemical or the physiological barrier. Second one is your cellular barrier or the phagocytosis. Third one is your inflammatory barrier. Fourth one is your fifth one is your elevated body temperature, or we can say elevated body temperature means we can also write as a fever. Then is your natural killer cells, or we can write the NK cells. Next one is your complement system, and last one is your interferon. For as of now, you just remember the names because we will read in detail about all the points. Okay, so what are your principal components? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Total 8 components are present. First one is your mechanical or physical barrier. Second one is your physiological barrier or the chemical barrier. Third one is your cellular barrier or the phagocytosis. Fourth one is your inflammatory barrier. Fifth one is your elevated body temperature or fever. Sixth one is your natural killer cells, or we can say NK cells. Seventh one is your the complement system, and last one is your interference. Okay, so as of now we discussed what is innate immunity and what are the various principal components of the innate immunity. Okay, please note down. Now come to your physical barrier. It is of two types, as we know. One is your intact skin, other one is your mucous membrane. So first we discuss about the skin. So we know that the skin is the largest organ of our body which externally cover our body. Okay, and also it prevents from, or we can say it prevents the entering of the pathogens. Okay, so we can write it is the largest organ of our body which externally surrounds, or we can say cover, which externally covers the body and prevents from entering of the pathogens. Okay, pathogens, it may be the bacteria or the viruses. That is why the skin acts as the first line of defense. That is why it acts as the first line of defense. Means any pathogen which first enter into our body, first who will act as a barrier? The physical barrier will be the skin. First it will fight with the respective pathogen, or we can simply say it will prevent or block the pathogen entering into our body. Next, stratum corneum. What is stratum corneum? It is the outer layer of the skin, okay, which is frequently or continuously worn out or injured by the pathogens. It is the outer layer of the skin which is frequently worn out or injured by the pathogens. Okay, means stratum corneum, it is the outer layer of the skin, or we can say it is the uppermost layer of the skin which is continuously or frequently it is worn out, or we can say it is injured by the pathogens. Next come to your, what is the keratin protein? Keratin protein. So keratin protein, it is the protein which is present inside the skin. Okay, keratin protein, it is a protein which is present inside the skin which prevents the entry of the water containing the bacteria and the viruses. It is the protein present inside the skin which prevents the entry of the water inside, prevent the entry of the water containing bacteria and viruses. Okay, so skin, some general points are, it is the largest organ of our body which externally covers the body and prevents the entry of the pathogen. Second point, it acts as the first line of the defense. And third point is the stratum corneum, which is the outer layer of the skin. It is continuously or frequently it is being worn out or injured by the pathogen. And last one is your keratin protein, which is present inside the skin, and it prevents or it helps from preventing the entry of the water containing the bacteria and the viruses. Next come to your, what is the mucous membrane. Every system is basically lined with the mucous membrane. Okay, we can say every system is lined with the mucous membrane. Okay, the mucous membrane simply entraps the pathogen and fight with the pathogen, or we can say it destroy or kill the pathogens. Mucous membrane entraps the pathogen and destroy it. Further, the cilia in the respiratory tract, further take the pathogen into the cilia of the respiratory tract, take the pathogen towards the pharynx. Okay. Further, thus this pathogen is further taken into the digestive system. Okay, digestive system, and finally this pathogen comes out. Finally, this pathogens comes out as the fecal materials, or we can say fecal matter. Okay, so the mucous membrane points some points that every system is definitely lined with the mucous membrane. Okay, mucous membrane, simply what it does, it entraps, or we can say traps or entraps the pathogen and simply destroy it. Or also we can also say in the mucous membrane the cilia of the respiratory tract. Simply we can say how it destroys the pathogen or how it kills the pathogen. By the help of the cilia of the respiratory tract, it takes the pathogen towards the pharynx. Further, it is carried away into the digestive system, by which it finally comes out of the body by the help of the fecal material. Okay. So as of now, we discussed what is the physical barrier, which consists of the intact skin and the mucous barrier, mucous membrane. Skin also we described some important points consisting of the stratum corneum and the keratin protein, and further also we discussed about some points of the mucous membrane. Okay, please note down. Now come to your physical barrier, physiological barrier or the chemical barrier. Okay, so we'll discuss first 5, then we'll discuss more 5. First is your body temperature or the pH of the body fluid. As we can know that the body temperature means elevated body temperature. Okay, means elevated or rise of the body temperature. We can say the pH of the various body fluid in our body, means such as your blood. It also help to kill the pathogen, or also we can say it prevents for the growth of the pathogen inside our body. So simply we can write it helps to kill or prevent the growth of the pathogens. Okay. Similarly, the acid of stomach. As we know, the acid that is present is inside our stomach is called your HCl or your hydrochloric acid, which have the pH around 1.8 to 2. 1.8 to 2 means what? Highly acidic. Means you know that the HCl is highly acidic, that it is able to dissolve even if a razor blade. So obviously it can kill, or we can say prevent the growth of the pathogens. So that is also, in this also the similar point, it helps to prevent the growth of the pathogens. Okay. Similarly, bile also, which you know it is produced by the liver, bile which is produced by the liver, it also eventually helps in killing or preventing the growth of the pathogens. It also helps to kill or prevent the growth of the pathogens. Okay. Next, cerumen or the earwax. Cerumen or the earwax, it helps in trapping the dust particles. Simply it also kills the pathogen, and also it acts as the repellent for the insect. Why? As we know, the ear is always open. As we sleep, it can be that some insect might enter into our ear and can cause various problems. But due to the presence of the earwax, as we know the repellent mosquito coils, or we can say the repellent mosquito, we can say the liquid, okay, or some Odomos, how it as we apply that, as it acts as an insect repellent, means mosquito does not sit on our body. So like that only, earwax or the cerumen also act as the repellent of the insect. as it also help in avoiding the insect to enter into our ear, as it is always open. So we can write, it traps the dust particles, means it helps to prevent the entry of the dust particles. Okay, dust particles also kill the pathogens, and act, or we can say and repulse the insects, entering into the ear. Okay, cerumen or the earwax, it traps the dust particles, kills the pathogens, and also it acts as a repellent which helps to repel the insect. Next is your lysozyme. Most tissue fluid or secretion consists of lysozyme. Most tissue fluid or secretion consist of lysozyme. Okay, such as your saliva and tears are full of lysozyme. Okay, means your common examples, such as we can say the saliva and tears are full of lysozymes, as also we can say the most tissue fluid or secretion consists of the lysozyme. So what does the lysozyme basically do? It simply breaks the wall of the, or we can say the cell wall of the bacteria. We can simply write, lysozyme helps in breaking the cell wall of bacteria, by eventually it can help to prevent us from various types of pathogen. So firstly, now we discussed 5 types of the physiological barrier or the chemical barrier. Firstly, we discussed the body temperature or the body fluids, pH of body fluids, which also helps in preventing or kill the various pathogens. The next one is your acid of stomach, such as your HCl, which is present inside our body, as it is highly acidic, means about pH is about 1.8 to 2. It also prevents, or we can say kill, the various pathogens. Thirdly, also bile, which is also present inside the liver, it also helps in preventing the growth of the pathogen, or we can simply say it helps in killing the pathogens. Fourth one, the cerumen or the earwax, what it does, it simply traps the dust particles. Okay, it also kills the various pathogens, and also it acts as a repellent, means it simply repels the insect. Next, it is the lysozyme, means most tissue fluid or the secretion consists of lysozyme. For example, your tears and the saliva are full of lysozyme. And what is the main function of the lysozyme? It helps in breaking the cell wall of the bacteria. Okay, so these are your first 5 points of the physiological barrier or the chemical barrier. Please note down. Now come to your some more points of the physiological barrier or the chemical barrier. Next, the sixth one is your human milk. How it acts as a barrier? It consists of the lactoferrin and the neuraminic acid. Lactoferrin and the neuraminic acid. Okay, which act as an antibacterial, basically specifically for as your staphylococcus. Okay, so it also acts as a, we can say, barrier for the various pathogens. Next is your rise of temperature or your fever. As the rise of temperature means what? Having the body temperature little bit higher from the normal temperature. So it can also act as a, we can say, it can act as the physiological activity as a barrier for various type of pathogens. So it activates various physiological activities of our body and prevents the growth of the microorganisms. As the elevated body temperature, it simply helps in killing the various pathogens, or we can say it can simply helps in the preventing the growth of the various pathogens. Okay. Next is your antimicrobial peptides, or we can say the defensins. human secretes various defensins which also helps to fight against the microbes or the microorganisms. Okay, means it acts as an antimicrobial peptides which are also known as your defensins. Means human secretes various defensins which act as to help to fight against the microbes. Then ninth one is your interference. About the interference we will read in detail in our forthcoming classes, but as of now you should only remember that it helps to fight against the various viruses. And lastly, it is your bicarbonate ions present in the saliva. What it does, it simply helps to neutralize the food. Okay, so or we can say it helps in neutralizing the acidity. Okay, so lastly we discussed 5 more points of the physiological barrier or the chemical barrier. First we discussed the human milk, as it consists of the lactoferric and the neurominic acid, which act as an antibacterial. Next, the rise of temperature, which also activate the physiological activities and which helps in preventing the growth of the microorganisms. Eighth one, the antimicrobial peptides, or we can say the defensins, which also acts to fight against the microbes. And the ninth one is the interferon, which simply helps to fight against the viruses. Okay, and lastly the bicarbonate ions which are present inside the saliva, it helps in neutralizing the food. So today we discussed about the immunity. What is immunity? Basically introduction part of the immunity. Then we discussed simply what is your innate immunity, in which we discussed the physical barrier, in which we discussed the intact skin and the mucous membrane. And lastly we discussed the physiological barrier or the chemical barrier, in which we discussed your 10 important points. So that's all for today. We will meet in our next class. Thank you.